Welcome to the Nate and Dorin podcast. We are professional videographers based in Vancouver, Canada, and we are here to talk about relevant topics within the video and media industry. I'm Nate, and I run Nate Dixon Media.
And I'm Dorin, the videographer, solo entrepreneur offering video production services. And today we are going to be talking about what steps you need to take to get your client prepared for the shooting day. Um, Obviously, we have to deal with clients, and there are many circumstances that happen that have taught us what to do with a client to prepare them for that day. There's stuff you should do in pre production, and there's stuff that you should do on the actual shoot day. So, Nate, why don't you fire off the first thing you can think of for pre-production?
Oh, okay. The first thing I'll do once we've set everything up, the actual shoot day specific thing I'll do is I'll send a little email um, telling them what not to wear.
Mhm.
Small repeating patterns look terrible on cameras.
Yes.
So sometimes I've had people bring like a vest or a blazer and it's like small checkerboard patterns or thin pinstripes or whatever, and it just creates moire. I hate moire. There's no easy way to fix it. It's better to just get them to choose solid colors or very basic, bigger patterns that our cameras aren't going to mess up with. And if you're shooting on green screen, it should be obvious, but I've had it happen where somebody brought like a brownish green coat to shoot on green screen. I'm like, you can't wear that. It's
Oh
gonna
yeah,
cause me a nightmare in trying to key out just the green without your coat. So yeah, tell them
gonna
don't
look
wear
like a
that
ghost.
stuff. I used to say don't wear glasses, but I actually think it's probably was just my lack of experience with being able to adjust lights and stuff. 'Cause I was getting huge reflections in the glasses, and I was like, "Oh, wear contacts if you can." But you know what? Like, we wanna see people as they're comfortable, what they actually look like. So, I'd rather them wear the glasses and feel more like themselves, the most natural on the shoot day, and adjust lights if I can and deal with the reflections in the glasses.
Yeah, you adapt to making your client comfortable, not vice versa.
Yeah, yeah, they
Mhm.
can help you out by choosing different clothes, but you don't wanna start altering, I don't know, appearance and make them feel uncomfortable.
Right. And actually, with the clothing for ladies, if you know you're gonna need to put a lav mic on, make sure they have like explain to them the whole process of how you can put a lav on. Like you need to put it in a pocket or on a belt in the back. And also you need to clip it on some kind of, vest or something. They don't wear ties, so well, some of them maybe. um,
Yeah. Or you just ask them to bring a couple options, right? And then you
mhm.
can see from what they bring what'll work best.
Recently, what I started doing was I brought a yoga wireless microphone belt that apparently yoga instructors use, and it's just this like black color. I think you can get gray and white as well. Um, and if my last client that wore a dress, we because it was a black dress, the black belt perfectly matched her outfit. So yeah, problem solved that
Nice.
way too.
Cool.
One thing I like to do in pre-production is to communicate as much as possible with the client. Besides picking their brain for content, always double check if they have any concerns or if they're nervous about anything. They might not be open about it. They might just assume like, oh, it's a stupid thing. This guy knows what he's doing. I don't need to worry about it. But if it is affecting their mood and their confidence, just make it a comfortable conversation to speak out in the open. Like, hey, do you have you had any experience being in front of a camera? If not, do you have any concerns? Do you have anything that you're worried about? Let's talk about it. And use your experience and your knowledge of what other people have to deal with in front of the camera to reassure them of what to expect.
Mhm. That's good. Because yeah, a lot of people aren't YouTube vloggers used to talking to cameras, myself included. So that's a good thing to check.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing is if they have a script, um, make sure they practice the script before filming day. Because sometimes you type things out, and if you don't read it out loud, it you realize it sounds really awkward when you say it
Mhm.
instead of just reading it. Um, do you
Yeah.
ever have them practice like a teleprompter, Dorin?
Yes, I do. There's some free teleprompter mock websites where you just copy paste your text in, and it's literally like a scrolling black backdrop. It simulates a teleprompter. So I get them to do that. I'm like, don't sit at your desk like a foot away from it, munching on some mac and cheese. Go 3 feet, 4 feet away, standing, look at the screen, and try and keep up with the speed of the text and see how it reads there. Especially if the client is the person giving you the script, they're writing it, they might think like, oh, well, I know what it's about, don't worry about it. Um, but oftentimes people kind of complete sentences in their head and lose track of a script and
Mm,
go off script, and that causes them to mess up and be not be able to refocus. So practicing that beforehand kind of gets them ready to um, read from a bit farther away from a screen, read while standing up, or however they're supposed to do that. And they need to give me, I push this, and this is for their comfort as well. They need to give me the script in advance, not on the filming morning day. I need time to put it in the teleprompter, and I need to help them with formatting. Like they might give me a huge essay, and I'm like, we need to break these paragraphs so that you have a breathing room. And it's easier on your eyes to read when ideas are chunked in paragraphs and not all together. If sometimes, it's if they're not a professional scriptwriter, you can offer them like, hey, if you would like some feedback on the script, I've listened to many scripts and I've helped compose many scripts. If you would like to take a look and give you some advice, um, they clients generally seem very happy with that, especially if they're trying to squish a lot of information in a very limited time. Like, oh, the video can be longer than this, but they're talking double that. You can help them identify repetitive phrases and crunch down two sentences into one, right? But then again, if you're doing that, you should be mm, either your original price should have included a bit of script help, or if not, just tell them like, well, we've got like 7 pages of script, and there are recommendations that I have, but my services would cost, another whatever $100 or something. But it is something that would help the client, definitely.
mhm. Yeah, I did a project earlier this year, and it was talking about Langley, and this person is not from Langley, so they just kind of had their bullet points that they wanted to hit. But uh, growing up in Langley, I had a few more ideas that I tossed in, and I said, well, actually, it's only this distance from Whistler or from the US. And it was trying to like advertise Langley by saying, oh, within a 5 hour drive, you can get to all these places. I'm like, well, it's more like a half-hour drive to the border, or, it's a 45-minute drive to downtown Vancouver. Like saying a 5 hour drive makes it seem like it's way out in the wilderness. And she was like super thankful for that. She's like, oh, okay, that sounds way better. You're right.
Yeah. So
So
sometimes it's easy to tunnel vision and not notice certain things. So always getting an outside opinion is beneficial.
totally.
One other thing that I do, depending on what we're filming, if I have a shot list, I usually do that together with the client. Um, like I'll do it together with them verbally, and then I'll share the mock-ups later. Um, but including them in that process, I think is helpful to them envisioning the filming day and being more confident in your abilities.
Yeah, it's good to know that the person you're hiring has a plan. And yeah, like you say, it's almost like you want to get that second opinion because one shot that you think might be really important, they might not really want to focus on for that video. They're like, actually, we'd rather you focus on this aspect of
Hmm.
the building or the company, you know? Yeah.
Another thing, but this I want to throw this in there, but basically this is how I operate my business. Like I do a half day and a full day pricing scheme. I don't really do hourly. I found that that helps clients, especially in the pre-production phase, because people are not freaking out over, oh, I'm trying to condense everything into 2 hours, and what if we go over 2 hours? What if it takes them 5 hours? Because, it's their first time on camera, and some people handle a first time easier in front of a camera than others, right? So I found that by taking the discussion to, hey, this is the price. It's a half day, up to 4 hours. If we spend only 2 hours there, then that means we did a great job. If we need to do a couple of retakes, we don't need to stress over time. You can have a 5 minute break, clear your thoughts, drink some water, get some air, and then you're good to go and less pressure on you. And every time the client's been thankful for that extra time. And especially big corporate clients, they'll say like, "Oh, do you think we can get it done in 4 hours, 5 hours?" And when I present, let's just go for a full day. And if we wrap it up in half a day, I charge you only for half a day. But let's schedule a full day and have your budget aligned for potentially a full day. And that always goes over well in either case. If we use the full day, they're like, "Oh, we're so glad we planned for this." And if it's wrapped up in a half day, like, "Wow, great job."
Mhm. And that's the same way you should approach the editing as well, right? You want to build in a bit of a buffer for revisions or if
Yes.
something goes wrong, because it's much easier to have that buffer. And then if you finish a bit early, great. The client's still happy, no surprises. But if you think you can speed through the edit, but then there's issues and you got to fix the sound and they're not happy with it and you got to make changes, you already have your razor thin margin that you're not making and you're just going to be frustrated the whole time. You're like, I'm doing all this extra work for free, or I gotta charge them extra. And then they're like, whoa, 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 this is more than we agreed for.
Hmm.
And it's just, it gets everybody in the wrong state of mind. So I think that's the right approach, Doran, to push for that full day so that you have that peace of mind. They have the peace of mind. And if you get done early, great. It's a nice little bonus.
Hmm. Um, One last thing I'll say for pre-production is if the location is dependent on the client, like the client's house or the client's office, if you can do some scouting with them, like, hey, can I come? I'm in the area. Can I come by for half an hour on this day to just quickly look at the place? Or if that's not possible, if the client can send you some photos of every room that they have available, because oftentimes I get a client saying, "Oh yeah, I want to film in this room," because they like a specific element. But if that element is portable, like, okay, let's take your banner with your logo and put it in the room that's doesn't have a loud fan that you can't control. you know, like, oh, this room's really noisy, or oh, you can see traffic whooshing behind you. Even with your blinds down, they're like semi-transparent. Can we use the boardroom instead? Yeah, no one's having a meeting that day. Like, there you go. We're away from the front door that's slamming. Just a bit of scouting and planning with the client, showing them this is the best room because we avoid all these issues. They're going to be more confident and more relaxed on the filming day.
That's true. And actually, I didn't scout out an office one time and I was filming and the client expected me to be able to get their logo on the wall in the shot, and it's like 7 feet tall. And I'm like,
I've
unless I
done that.
shoot like up your nostrils, I'm not gonna get that. And plus, if I'm have, like, a nice, uh, depth of field that is shallow and looks, like, more cinematic, you won't even be able to read the sign.
Mm-hmm.
So unless I, like, stop down and crank up the light, it's just gonna and then shoot at this weird angle, you're not gonna get what you're expecting.
Yeah, or get them to be like 20 feet away from the wall, and you get
Yeah, and
a
it
smaller
was, like,
logo above their head.
it was, like, glass too. It's like a
Uh,
glass plaque, and I'm like, "It's gonna have these weird reflections," so
yeah, I've
I'm
had
like
that happen too, and the resolution to that was we just put the logo as a lower third.
yeah, exactly. Usually that's a lot better.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff that you can do in pre-production. There's probably more stuff, but we didn't want to overload it with too much stuff. This was like the very common for my clients.
Yeah, this is
Um,
geared towards corporate clients, right? We're not really talking about events or weddings. This is like coming into a small to
yeah,
medium business typically with like a talking head
yeah,
interview type thing.
individuals, small businesses, corporate, yeah. Um, Obviously for wedding stuff, you would want to attend the rehearsal. You would want to, you know, ask,
Get in touch with a wedding planner to get all the
yeah,
contacts of the DJ and
ask them every detail about what's the decoration gonna look like, how's the walking in and going out routine, how much break is there in between the ceremony and reception, and they better say at least 2 hours so that you have to move your gear. So yeah,
yeah,
um, but we mostly deal with like small businesses and corporate, right? So we're talking based on our experience.
yeah, that's what we're focused on for this kind of client prep.
Mm-hmm.
But so
So Nate,
Doran,
what?
oh, I said
Nope.
first.
Okay, fine. You go.
What are things you should do on the shoot day with the
Ah,
client?
took it out of my mouth. Uh, well, on the filming day, I think first thing you need to check if you didn't do it in the pre-production, like in your emails and meetings and phone calls with them, is again double check with them if it's their first time on camera. You can have some visual cues, like the fact that they're fidgeting, they're constantly looking around all over the place, and they're not locking with the lens. Just have a quick chat with them and see what they're nervous about. Just having a quick dialogue with them for 5 minutes before filming puts them in a talking mood. And if you're like behind your camera and barely making eye contact, like you're just like obscured and you're just like trying to make them look towards the camera, you get more used to looking that way, right? That's usually the first thing I would do on a shoot day if I notice my client is nervous.
That's good. And a lot of the time when they are nervous, they come across stiff and monotone and
Yeah,
dry,
yeah.
not their dynamic selves. Um, this is something I really try and focus on, is helping them not be nervous and being a good cheerleader, right? You want them
Mm-hmm.
to get their confidence built up. You want to reassure them of how they're doing great. You know, if you make any mistakes, we can go again. It's no problem. I've got plenty of card space, like plenty of battery. You don't need to feel stressed. And like you say, if you've booked them for a half day or a full day, there's less of a time crunch. So you can reassure them of all those things. And sometimes it helps if the person on screen has like someone, a friend or coworker who they like in the same room. Like I was filming at a like a eyebrow eyelash salon, and the beauty esthetician had their marketing person there with them on the shoot, and she was playing the cheerleader role there. So while I was getting everything set up, she was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna do great. Make sure you mention this stuff." And if like the talent like flubbed her lines or anything, uh, the cheerleader was quick to be like, "Oh, that's no problem. You can do that again." And so like I didn't have to take on that role in that specific
Mm-hmm.
case, so that was like nice. So maybe if that could be something you could mention is like, "Hey, does can someone else help you out, get you a drink of water or, like, be a cheerleader? Because sometimes you'll be able to do it, but sometimes it really helps if they have someone with that built-in trust and friendliness already able to be
Mhm.
there with them.
Mhm. Mhm. For sure. Yeah, I've had plenty of corporate shoots where the CEO was like being interviewed or asked questions by their assistant or several of their staff are there to help take care of things. So yeah, they're always in a comfortable
Oh, nice.
position there. Yeah. Um, I think especially coming back to if it's their first time on camera, just letting them know certain things that maybe it might be too awkward for them to ask because they don't know what the video process is like. You know it, but they don't if they've never been in that situation. So telling them like, this is not live, okay? We're not on TV. I'm just recording on my camera. If you slip up and stumble, mumble, whatever, just redo the idea, laugh it off. That's what editing's for. And they always like that line. That's what editing's for. We'll fix it in editing. Don't worry about it. Um, so reassuring if that's the case, obviously. If you're doing a live stream, don't tell them that.
We're
but
not live.
but for, non-linear editing or whatever for non-live, just reassure them of that. Reassure them you can do retakes, especially if you have the time buffer. Like, if you want to take a break, you want to skip to the next chapter. There's a lot of ways, a lot of possibilities you can give them to see what they're comfortable with. That's another thing you could just ask them, like, all right, this is the pace we've been going at for the last hour. Are you comfortable with this? Do you think you would be better at explaining something else? And sometimes they'd be like, you know what? I want to get the really wordy and technical thing out of the way first at the start of the day before I get tired. I want to do the easy stuff at the end of the day. And like, wow, that's actually very smart. Let's do it. And sometimes clients have like great ideas that I never thought of. Like, yeah, let's do the hard stuff first, unless you're a grumpy morning person. I've had that happen also. Like, they're like uh, an older gentleman, so they didn't want to do anything that was too difficult first thing in the morning. I'm like, okay, fair enough. We'll do the cheesy, easy stuff.
Yeah, and some people would rather start with the easy stuff to kinda get warmed up, to get more used to the scenario, right? And then they're
Hmm.
like, "Okay, now I'm all warmed up. Now let's tackle the trickier stuff, now that I've
Hmm.
got a couple hours under my belt of doing whatever they're doing."
For sure.
Um, One thing that is really nice is if you can play back a little clip of them. Even if they can't hear the audio great, just seeing how they look on camera, they can be like, "Oh, okay, that's great. I was envisioning the worst." Usually it's a positive thing. And if you have like an external monitor or recorder, it's obviously really easy to throw a LUT on there so that if you're filming in our case S-Log, you put the S-Log to Rec 709 LUT on there, and so they don't see the gray washed out log footage and think, "Oh, what's wrong? Oh, that looks so weird." They can see a little more contrast and saturation so that they're like, "Oh, that looks really nice." So,
Hmm.
yeah, I've been trying to do that as much as I can since I got my, field monitor this year earlier.
And for people that it's their first time hearing themselves off of a
Oh.
playback device, that you're always gonna get the same reaction, like, oh, that's what I sound like? Oh, that sounds so different. That's so weird. Hearing myself is so weird. Seeing myself is so weird. Like I want to have a little piece of paper with those words written in it. As they're saying it, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody's like that. Yeah. You get used to it. Um, One thing that I learned from a more experienced videographer was to bring anti-fatigue mat if the talent is standing, and you're not getting like below the ankles. That really helps with standing and delivering lines for a full day or however long. Like even standing still for half an hour sometimes gets your feet hurt and you lose focus and you can't stand still, right? So you don't want that. Um, and I
That's a
guess
good tip.
that's another thing you should always look out for your client. You want to your number one priority is to make them to capture them, light them good, get proper audio, but you need to make sure that you're helping them present themselves good. Some videographers might feel that that's not their responsibility, um, but I think that's a risky approach because you're giving the client basically a reason to accuse you of not paying attention to detail. Like, oh, didn't you notice that my hair is like I have a loose strand that is doing its own thing, or oh, you didn't see that I have like something in my teeth, or you didn't see that I'm sometimes seated clients do this. They spin
Oh,
around in
yeah.
their
Do
chair
that all the
as
time.
an they might have nervous tics.
Yep.
Um, so again, it comes back to calming them down, getting them focused and locked in, and just explaining to them that you're not just picking on their personality or their, whatever. You're just helping them be as presentable as possible.
Yeah. And hopefully you don't tell someone with Parkinson's to, like, stop moving or something.
Okay, Nate.
You don't wanna, like, "Can you stop doing that thing that you cannot control? Thanks." Yeah. Another thing you can do is on the shoot day, like, if a plane flies overhead or something, after the take, if you wanna retake it, you say, That was too loud. Let's do that again. It wasn't anything for your performance, but just for safety." Or if it actually wasn't that loud, don't, like, keep them in suspense afterwards. Try and say, "I did hear that noise, but it's okay. We'll be able to fix it in post,"
Hmm.
or, "It wasn't that loud. I was monitoring the audio the whole time." And so they're not thinking like, "Is this guy paying attention? Is he not?"
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good point. I catch myself sometimes saying, "Okay, let's do another retake of that. Can you take it from paragraph two, please?" And I don't explain why, and that gets them nervous. Sometimes they think
Mm,
they did a bad job. I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no! I just heard a door slam." But so
ah,
I need to like they're focused on the script. They might block out the noise mentally because they're focused on the script, right, or on delivering to the camera. So, yeah, just being as communicative as possible is a positive. Um, and a thing that I've had to work at was how you explain things because you can tell them something and they'll perceive it as bad, right? Um, so wording it nicely. So for example, if a client's like having a nervous tick and they're like playing with their pen on the desk and it's getting picked up on the mic, right? You don't just tell them like, "Can you stop tapping? It's really annoying." You don't tell them that. You just say, "Hey, so the mic is right here, so please avoid uh, you know, gestures that involve you touching anywhere in that area, just because we want to hear you very clearly because you're sounding great, you're right on script. We just want to make sure that there's nothing interfering with the audio, so no rustling of papers, no tapping of pens, just a relaxed hand, and you just guide them like that."
yeah, that's good. Or I've heard, put it in a compliment sandwich. The breads are the compliments, and the filling is what you're actually trying to say. "Hey,
Yeah.
that was a great take. That was amazing. You stuttered on this. I'm not sure if you noticed, but this word here in the first sentence or whatever. But again, everything else was great. It was just that first one. So let's just do a retake for safety. There's the
Hmm.
sandwich." You don't just say, "You
Oh
messed up
yeah.
on the first sentence."
Yeah.
You don't get
Yeah.
straight to the
Actually,
point, German efficiency style. No go.
another thing I like to tell them, which is true. It's not that I just like to tell them like shenanigans, but like in for from a videographer's point of view, the more footage you have to choose from, the better. So I was trying to get them like, let's that was perfect. Let's do a second take. Is there anything you want to try different? Do you want to be more relaxed? Do you want to crack a joke at the end? Let's just get that second take. Like uh, sometimes interestingly enough, the CEOs, even though they book the full day, if they know they delivered the line, they want to get up and go. Like they got a golf meeting or something, like they got more important things to do. And I've always felt like the bad guy for telling him like that was great. Please, can I get a second take just so I can have fun in editing? I don't know, maybe we need it. And last time I filmed the big CEO of a gold mining company, we ended up using that second take after they request someone else, a director, was requesting the edit and telling me what footage to use. And after I used the first take, they're like, he was hunched over a little bit. Let's use the second take. He looks more relaxed. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
That's good. So once you say, "Yeah, okay, it's in the can, now just try it more laid back," or whatever, sometimes that can be the take
hmm
that you want. It's kinda what
Yeah,
you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
good, that's good.
you have, I guess, maybe we should have said this at the beginning. You have to be in control. You have to be in control and aware of a lot of things, and you kind of have to assert that with the client. Because a few clients, especially some CEO corporate people, um, they just want to get it done with quick, but then you can't throw the blame like, oh, well, you got up and walked away. Like, well, I thought we were done. Why didn't you say we're not done? Right? I've never been in that situation, but I can easily see that happening. So, for example, if they're reading a teleprompter script and they mess up on a word, they'll just redo the word and continue reading the script, but their tonality
Mm,
changed, or their facial expression changed, or they're like smiling because they screwed up or something. So you have to take that initiative and say like, for continuity's sake, just so this, if you don't want to do an entire or not entire, what's it called? Just so we don't prolong the filming or add an additional film day, let's do it properly. Please, can you redo from two sentences beforehand just so you have a flow of tonality, right? And usually they understand what you're talking about. Um, but some at the beginning, I was kind of intimidated to do that, to be bossy. I felt like I was bossy, telling them how to do it, where to do it, how, like they know what they're talking about. Like, yeah, but yeah, with experience, like you said, Nate, with experience, you see what can happen if you don't help your client be comfortable.
yeah, that's true, you do gotta stay in the driver's seat, right? And you're the one who's gonna be editing it, so you know where they should start back. If it's a teleprompter, I do that all the time, is if possible, I'll have them take it from the beginning, get a whole another clean take. But if it's right near the end, or if we're running short on time, or they're just getting frustrated and I know they need a break, I'll say, okay, let's start from a couple sentences back here. And then we just do the last little bit. And that's if I'm shooting with two cameras, because I know I can switch easily. If it's
hmm
just one camera and I don't want to do like the punch zoom in and out YouTube style quick cuts, then I'll try and get them to redo the whole thing if we've got the time and the patience. Because, yeah, just redoing one word does not help.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I get them super comfortable by pressing record and putting the script on, but just saying, "Oh, we're just gonna do a warm up, like just read it out loud, get comfortable with it." But if it's a good take, then the surprise is like, "All right, that was
Ah.
great. Let's move on to the next one." Like, "Oh, when do we start filming?" Like, "Oh yeah, it's filming. Don't worry, doing great."
Ah, man. It's like the doctor who says count to 3 before they give you, like, a needle. And they're like, 1, 2, and then they poke it in, and then they say 3 after they've injected it, so you don't, like, tense up on 3.
Ew.
I've had that technique used on me, and I was like, oh, okay. It's already over, okay. Um,
Distraction.
yeah, one more thing, if, you can't depending on the shoot, like, if you could have someone for makeup, that would be, like, the very best option, because sometimes people get very oily foreheads like me, so oily, and, hairs get out of place, but at the very least, what I found is helpful is to bring a little spray bottle of water to get all the little frizzy hairs. It doesn't happen as much for guys, but sometimes when I'm filming girls or anybody with long hair on a green screen, or even not on green screen, I'll have them pull all the hair back or pull it all forward. And even then, sometimes little frizzy bits come out. So I'll take the spray bottle and help flatten it down a little bit.
So by
And
frizzy, help my ESL here, like stray hairs, like they're just splitting off
yeah,
doing their own thing.
little wispy, like maybe you could see a few of them kind
Yeah,
of up here on me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
you
any bit.
you bring a spray bottle and do that?
Yeah, we've got one at the studio that I film at with Village Church. Like, yeah, we'll use the spray bottle. Sometimes a comb works, but sometimes you need a little bit of water to
Hmm.
help kind of mat it down so that it's all one piece.
Do you never run into an issue of like ruining like a lady's haircut or something?
No, I haven't yet. Like,
Like if they have it like in a shape and puffed up.
usually if it's at that level, it doesn't have those frizzy bits because everything's all in place.
Okay.
It's more as
Yeah.
if their hair is just down and then it's just kind of on their shoulders. I'll try and also get the hair off their shoulders because when it kind of spits out, it looks a little weird. So either
Yeah.
all forward or all back tends
It
to look
goes
the
over the
best.
lav mic too. I hate that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Necklaces, sometimes you gotta make sure the clasp is at the back and it hasn't like found its way forward because that can look weird. Or just get them to remove it altogether if it's rubbing on the lav mic too. I've had to do that.
Hmm.
Say, love your necklace, but
So by a
it's
spray
going.
bottle, you mean like a mist, like a fine spray, right?
Yeah, yeah, just a little, just yeah, a little bit, just to help flatten it down a little bit.
Hmm. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
have to try that. I've always felt too awkward to like address a lady's hair. Like, let me.
almost always.
I've always just told them like, oh, you if you want to fix up your hair a little bit, and they just pull out their phone and go into selfie mode and deal with it by themselves. Or again, if there's an assistant there, they're like, you know.
Yeah,
But that's good to know. Okay, spray bottle.
yeah.
Never thought of that.
I
Learning
never
new
thought of the
things every
anti-fatigue
day.
mat, so I learned that from you, who you learned
Mhm.
from someone else. So
Mhm.
good tips, good tips.
For sure. Yeah, that's a lot of tips on how to get your client prepared and comfortable and ready for the shoot. Communicate with them, plan with them, include them in pre-production as much as you can. Address any concerns, be open in discussing with them, especially first time in front of camera clients. Get them really comfortable. And then on the shoot day, you need to be in charge. You need to notice things. You need to make sure that they are performing well and looking well, besides being captured well. Any other
Hmm.
finishing thoughts, Nate?
I think that pretty much covers it for the scope we're going for today.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
always a pleasure doing these podcasts with you, Nate. And that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you for watching and listening.
And be sure to subscribe to not miss an episode of the Nate Doran podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. This has been Nate and Doran. Thank you for watching and listening.